Konene, so unless umekuwa chini ya mti unajua kuwa Gachagua yuko maside za US and it seems like on Saturday night alikuwa na Q&A na kuna dem fulani hapa alimuuliza maswali zingine mpaka ningetaka kujua udem kwani ushaisikiza iko nini wewe ama ni great minds think alike because alimuuliza a lot of stuff that I've talked about before and a lot of stuff that I've questioned ikikam to story na Gachagua. Wacha tusikize.
You need, Mheshimiwa, to start positioning yourself as a national leader, not as a tribal leader. And I know many people won't like what I'm saying, but it's the truth. The first mistake that has been done in this event is speaking Kikuyu. And me, I'm from Madeira, Karandi. You may take Wito. So not everyone knows Kikuyu, but I know a little bit.
Kumbuka ile time nilibonga juu yake, niko na bonga juu like one of the events that he did. And watu walikuwa kwa line wanabongeshwa Kisapere, so iko ile laga shokia na how ilikuwa like wasana pangwa mpaka na Kisapere. And I was like, this is happening in the US. You've just come from Kenya, you're supposed to be a national leader. Like, how do you make yourself that small, in quotes, that you used to be the deputy president of a country, but now you cannot do anything and talk about Kenya as a country? You can only talk about your tribe. And this is the reason why you normally say two things can be right. His impeachment was wrong, but number two, he was never fit to be a deputy president of a country. The same way kuna hii clown ingine inaitagua Moses Kuria, hii raya ya the foreskin misleads the mind. Hiyo raya kwanza, first of all, ilikuwa inafaa ku have like a live session na Kibe. I was planning to join and try and ask him if which foreskins mislead the mind. Nataka kujua kama ni just Kenyan ones, specifically Luo ones, ama do the Chinese ones mislead the foreskin, considering alikuwa na fight na China Square na kumbuka ile time where a lot of people are saying he was twisting them. Is it the Japanese foreskin, is it the British, is it the German, or is it just the Kenyan one? I don't want to know which one misleads the mind, but he was not because these are questions that mainstream media will never ask. And these are questions that you'll find waseka kina Raila laughing off. It's not a laughing matter. When you start spreading tribal hatred and tribal bullshit, it just spreads and it becomes a cancer. And this is the cancer that has kept us down for very long. So nilifurahia sana line of questioning you dem. Wacha tuendelee.
And unless that is addressed, then all this will be for nothing. Because the moment we position ourselves as Kikuyu, another tribe also positions themselves as a certain tribe. And before we know it, we are back to the same problem. I watched a speech about you in Boston, and the speech was a good speech, but there is something you said that Kikuyus are more hardworking, I'm paraphrasing, we've grown the country. But we have done that because we are a beneficiary of the system of Jomo Kenyatta.
Nakumbuka niliaddress hii story, yani kisema there's nothing like one tribe is more business savvy than another. One tribe is more business whatever than hakunaga kitu kama hiyo, understands money more than the other. These are good stereotypes, but they're also bullshit. And they are bullshit from all tribes. Like I've heard them. Inakuwaga Wasapere wanapenda do, kila mtu anapenda do. Ukienda pale Koinange utapata every tribe ina sell, inauza ile kitu. Alafu kuna kuwaga na kitu kama si Wajaka wanapenda luxury. Mimi nitoka Ujakani, I've seen like levels of poverty that are scary. Just because a few clowns will go on the internet and you see them wasting money and this is Gland Village. Hizo ni clowns. These are literally clowns. Ile ujinga, kuna kitu ngine kuna trend ati wameni charge 350 kwa expressway. Mimi kama Jaluo, so niko nafaa kuchajua 500. I'm like, fuck you, shut the fuck up. I hate those tribal stereotypes. But it's okay for them to be used for humor purposes. But when they're used by a national leader, and a national leader comes out and says, this tribe is more hardworking than this, they are more business savvy than this, they are more hakunaga kitu kama hiyo. Everyone works their asses off. Are there advantages of being certain tribes at certain circumstances? Yes. Like for a very long time in this country, it's been like ukiwa Mkale ama Msapere, getting government contracts has been easier. And that's the reason why now, if you look at akina Mbadi, akina Opiyo Wandayi, they are very happy because now they feel like it's time for their tribe to eat, but it's mostly just them. Will a few maybe elite Luos benefit from Mbadi and Opiyo Wandayi being in these positions? Yes, but it's a few elite. Najua haitakuwa, it's never the average person. When it comes to the average person, like everyone is just doing guesswork. Kuna watu wanaanzisha biashara zinaanguka, wengine wanaanzisha hivi wanaanguka, and that happens. So wacha tuendelee na speech with them.
Say that there are other people from other tribes who are not hardworking. They are. It's just like the whites here. We have that sense of entitlement as Kikuyus, and it has to stop. And if I don't say that, I will not be telling the Showdown the truth. We want Kasongo to go, but we have to say the truth. And what else? Right now.
Okay, I think hapo ndio Udem alibaki amepoteza like her train of thought. So that was one of the things that she was talking about, and it was interesting to hear now Gachagua try to justify all this. Akaanza kubonga juu ya the like Kasongo anatry ku bring an extinction of Kikuyus, and I don't know, man. I remember waswali niambia that doors were being marked and what I could say is, when it comes to opposition politics, I've always talked about it. I've always seen what happens, and even during 2007, 2013, 2017, 2022, kukiwa na hizo ujinga zote Kisumu, I don't think any doors were marked or anything. I feel like that's too much. That goes to too much planning. And don't forget, goons don't have your time ya kujua hapa ni kwa nani, hapa ni kwa nani. Could someone be trying to push the tribal narrative? Yes. Could the government, because I think the government is just trying to push the tribal narrative and just attack everyone so that they make protests not be attractive to anyone. Nacheki, but it was interesting to see this girl just question Gachagua, and Gachagua try to answer in the best way that he knows how. And I'd just want him, like, if there's one thing that ataka umse akuwe nayo, it's just that national appeal, and that's just that understanding that Kenya can be good for all of us. I think for a very long time Kenya imekuwa ikipushiwa as this country that can only be good for one tribe at a time, ama two tribes at a time. This thing can be good for everyone. Everyone can just be waking up and tunachukua ile flag alafu tunaikiss, tuko like iko nene, let's go and work. But wacha tusikize vile alitry kujitetea.
William Ruto is an expert in creating narratives. He is very good, and many people fall for it. I have fallen for it before. He created a narrative against Uhuru Kenyatta that he's a drunkard, and he convinced us Uhuru Kenyatta is a drunkard and is useless. And we all disobeyed Uhuru Kenyatta, embarrassed him, shamed him, because William Ruto convinced us that Uhuru Kenyatta is a drunkard, is a useless man.
He plays na I beg to differ. Tulikuwa hapa na Watenge, and Watenge, I remember alisemaga kitu moja interesting, that the reason why Gachagua alikuwa anasema at wewe Uhuru si nilikutoa kwa bar is because Uhuru used to be a drunkard, and Gachagua was sent by Moi to literally get him from the bar and prepare him to be the next president, because Moi wanted someone who would protect his wealth, because alikuwa next assume that Kibaki would go after his wealth, and Kibaki never did that. But kulikuwa na hiyo. So to say that it's Ruto that made you disrespect Uhuru is to be dishonest. You disrespected Uhuru because you needed to disrespect Uhuru. It was during the campaign season, so people were disrespecting each other. But to claim that that's because of Kasongo, that's to be dishonest. And to put Kasongo as this person who can convince you to do what, hiyo ni upumbavu. But I get the picture. Najua, we are in that campaign mode, so wacha tuwekele Kasongo hiyo.
Man. And he deceived all of us. We hated our own president, our own son, and refused to listen to him. He is very good at creating narrative. That narrative that Rigathi Gachagua is tribal is a narrative created by William Ruto because there is nothing else he can say about me.
Hapo pia na disagree. You're the one person who, even me, I sit down every time and I try to listen to you, and the only thing I hear you talking about is Murima. Murima this, Murima that. Murima this, Murima that. And that's the reason why even the young lady, will go back to her. Alikuwa namuuliza juu the same thing. Like this Murima narrative, itaisha at what point? And at what point will it be about the whole country and not just Murima? But wacha tuendelee.
I have not been involved in corruption. Had I been involved in corruption, he would have been taken me to court by now. Had I done a single deal with the government, today I would be in prison. He has nothing against me because anything I have said has come to pass and people know I'm a man of integrity. So all he says is that Rigathi Gachagua is tribal. But nobody listens in Kenya. The reason being, Rigathi Gachagua is not tribal because when William Ruto stood as president, he was not Kikuyu, he was Kalenjin. There was a candidate called Mwaura Wahiga. If I was tribal, I would have supported Mwaura, not William Ruto.
Okay, that's a good point. It's still a bullshit point. Do I think it deserves to be clapped for? No, I don't think it's still a bullshit point. Mwaura Wahiga does not represent the status quo. What you did was you are supporting the status quo. Ekonene. So, nime-interrupt show kupatia some good news. Are you in the UK? Are you in Canada? Are you in Europe? You know what? Good news. Lemfi imefika jo. So, ukiwa masaiza US, ukiwa UK, ukiwa Canada, ukiwa Europe, bado unzabaki umetuma pesa through Lemfi. No sahau, Lemfi ukupatiaga the best exchange rates. Na pia, ile story ya $20 cashback on your first transaction, ile kwa equivalent to $100, hiyo bado iko. So, unangoja nini jo? Usahau tumia promo code ikonene. Yes? Alafu, pia kitu moja na nibamba saizi juu ya Lemfi ni the fact that si lazima ubaki umeseti do kwa your mobile wallet. Uzabaki umetransfer do direct from your debit card ikikuja. Alafu the exchanges themselves zinakuwaga instant. Alafu saizi pia kitu mushinaga nikiambia wasi wako US. Jua still unzalipa bills za maparo ka uko maju. Unzalipa aje? Cause till numbers na pay bills pia ziko supported na Lemfi. So nangoja nini? Baki umeinstall Lemfi. Yes? Na umesikia vile nimesema US, UK, Canada, Europe. Chukueni Lemfi, chap. Kauko Dubai, masaiza UAE, Lemfi ina come soon. Alafu msisahau jo kutumia promo code ikonene. Unangoja nini? Lemfi, international payments for everyone. Let's go back to the show. Because as I normally say, tribalism only appeals to the voter, like the average voter when they're being convinced to vote. But when we look at the bigger picture, tribalism stops playing a role. And yes, but kuna this Mlima narrative, and this girl still asked about it. Wacha tumsikize.
By the way, did I explain myself on the narrative of tribalism? Did I make sense?
So what I'm wondering is, if we Gen Zs don't understand the mountain narrative, how are you going to engage us and find a way to position yourself or position these politics beyond one term and beyond the defense of Mulima? And by the way, I'm not embarrassed to be Kikuyu. I'm from Kirinyaga and Nyeri. You know, you can't get Kikuyu than that. You know, I'm very Kikuyu, but we have, you know, but that's just the truth. How are you going to convince us? Because, you know, I'm trying to explain to you the way we see it, right? There is that pride, yes, you know, of being a Kikuyu. You know, but there is also a people who don't see that. And we as Gen Zs are saying we are tribeless and we are fearless. And the politics being done now is the way it was done 20 years ago, 10 years ago, you know. And that is what is really scaring us, because if we divide ourselves, if you say you're coming to the defense of Mulima, then there's someone in I don't know, Rift Valley or Western, who will also say they are going to that defense. And then they'll...
Yeah. So, this is what she talked about, and I found that to be super interesting, because mi nimekuwa nikifuatilia, especially sasa raya za ODM akina Kanyuma, unajua Kanyuma, the one who saw what should not be seen in Russia, and that's the narrative they are pushing. The narrative they are pushing is ase wamekuwa kikakula, ni time yetu ya kukakula, ase wana defend nini, and that's why they can even push the narrative that the Gen Z protests are only tribal. So this is the reason why we keep insisting that this guy has to become a national leader. At some point, he has to forget the mountain. Forgetting the mountain does not mean that he's forgotten his people. It just means that he looks at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is Kenya can be good for all of us. It does not have to be good for one tribe or two tribes at a time. It can just be good for all of us. And I think this is the problem of what we've had na hizi presidency from time ya Kenyatta, then tukakuja time ya Moi, then Kibaki, then Uhuru. Because Uhuru was so sawigi. Like at some point, Uhuru's cabinet was, I think, like 50% mountain, alafu I think as the other 50%, maybe 30% Rift Valley, and it was just pathetic. You should never, it does not matter who voted for you. You should always strive to make a country feel like a nation. So we've had this tribal problem for a very long time, and it's going to take us a very long time to also get out of it. I can't blame all this on Gachagua. The difference is the likes of Uhuru and even Ruto, they know how to sugarcoat it. They know how to hide the tribalism. The truthful man is always truthful, and with his truthfulness, he ends up showing us that he's not ready to be a national leader. Do I think he's bad tribal? No, he's not. Because pia kuna good tribal and bad tribal. Good tribal is he loves his people. And since he loves his people, that's good. Bad tribal is he when you hate other people. And that's why tunaweza sema raya kama Moses Kuria is bad tribal. Like if one of these two clowns was to be president, I'd rather have Gachagua than this other dude. But still at some point he has to step up, and at some point he has to try to be a national leader. And it's sad that imebidi aende majuu, and for one person to have the guts to ask him this, because I remember nikiwatch hizi vitu na watch Matiang'i akiwa majuu, naona it's Kenya. Na watch Gachagua, who has been deputy president, it's Mount Kenya, and it's just pathetic. Like we can't have that as a country. We have to think of how do we unite? How do we go past this? And yeah, so that's an interesting thing that I've seen. And talking of other interesting things, there's this, wacha nitoke Kenya kidogo, nibaki nimeishia Masaiza states. So jana nilibonga juu ya vile states kuna kuwagana these very weird crimes. And the funny thing is on Sunday, I'm just chilling. Alafu somehow nikamua nilikuwa na watch YouTube, alafu a certain video was suggested for me to watch, and this same video ilikuwa inaka suggested to an Nini fan fulani anaitwa Kurgat. So Kurgat pia alienda pakishare the same video with me, although by the time he was sharing it I'd watched it, and this video was so disturbing because it happened like 4 years ago, but I think now the video imekuwa released saa hizi, na video yenyewe ilikuwa inaitwa ni cops discover bodies in a woman's trunk during traffic stop. So hii story ili happen at in 2021, ile Makarawa states walienda hapo wamestop dem fulani, and udem alikuwa na amebeba mabags kibao, and wakashindwa jo nini umebeba, alafu in the process wakanotice gari inanuka. So gari ilikuwa inanuka kabisa, alafu after wakaanza kumwambia like wewe fungua hizi bags. So eventually dem vile alifungua bags, they noticed that alikuwa amebeba watu wawili wamedate. And I remember like when I read this story, the first thing ile nilifanya ni kutafuta dem mwenye jina yake. Try kuona kama nini yangu bado itakumbuka. Yes, alikuwa anaitwa Nicole Michelle Johnson. So damn, Nicole Michelle Johnson. So hii mwaka ilikuwa kwa Fox Baltimore walibaki wameandika ni Sun, okay, I guess that's maybe ni Sunday. Woman found with children's bodies in car in Baltimore gets 50-year sentence. Alafu hicho kimadha kimesetiwa hapo. Alafu iko ni a Baltimore County judge on Monday sentenced a woman for up to 50 years behind bars for child abuse stemming from a 2021 traffic stop which officers found the decaying bodies of her niece and her nephew. Nicole Johnson, 36, held her face in her palms as Baltimore County Judge Nancy M. Pupura announced the sentence. Sijui kama ni Papura ama ni Pupura. Gave Johnson a life sentence but suspended all but 50 years. Then akasema Johnson has been held since her arrest following the July 2021 traffic stop. Baltimore County police officers at the scene discovered what a prosecutor described as a nightmare: the decaying bodies of Joshlyn Johnson, 7, and her brother, 5-year-old brother Larry O'Neill, wrapped in garbage bags in the trunk. Johnson's sister had left the children in her care in 2019. So hiki mother kilienda up kikidedisha atoi wawili. Alafu kitu funny ni ukisikiza hiyo conversation, it's just that I can't even put the conversation, but at some point hii hudra tusema that by kesho itakuwa trending news or something. Nasema something close to that, like by tomorrow my name will be known or something. Alafu kitu wagafani ni as soon as the cops noticed the two corpses, ikidemu kilitry kuhepa, like unahepa unaenda hapi. Alafu sasa kwa hiyo ndayo alikuwa na besti yake anaitwa Bibi, and one of the things this woman kept saying was, oh, Bibi had nothing to do with this, Bibi had nothing to do with this. But I'd want to know, like, your stench ya mwili uko naifilaje? Cause one thing about me, nilifiligio stench ya mwili in 2009 I think, when udem anaitwa Angel alidedi udem wa Ghetto Radio. So I went to City Mortuary, and I think I know that smell. Like every time hata na watch ma crime videos za states kuzizo ndo zinakuwaga kwa wingi, I always feel like I can literally smell the bodies, and because your stench ilibaki na mimi from yo like time yangu ya kwenda City Mortuary. So that was really really messed up. But hii story pia me remind jo another story that I checked. Hii nilicheki hii wiki ilikuwa si unajuaga jo, mimi nimse nikiwaambia kaka kuna progioni bambaga sana ni mada tapes ya Obuya. So Obuya alidui mada tapes ingine, ilikuwa it was so good ni juu ya ilikuwa 2 days ago. British mogul dies in Mombasa, 12 years later his body lies in a morgue. So hii story ni twisted, because it's twisted in the way that kuna mse wa Brito ule alikuja akarimari hapa Kenya, afu vile alirimari hapa Kenya the new wife akampatia 2 daughters, but still mse mwenyewe alikuwa tayari na familia fulani Brito. And vile alidedi, like when you listen to the story it's so interesting, and then you check the story, but when you listen to the story you see like when he died, this Nairobi the Kenyan wife ended up burying him as a Muslim. So alikuwa anaitwa Akbar something. Alafu kwa ile mochari alipelekwa there was no record of him, like if you went back and check record yake hakukuwa. So it's a very twisted story, like I don't know what to think. Alafu it shows you how money will bring problems kwa watu, because the daughters walikuwa cool with their step brothers and the step brothers were cool with the step sisters, but somehow after the dad died hawajaisikizana tena, because don't forget this guy was very rich. So saizi mwili yake first of all because unashindwa nasemaje that 12 years later yuko morgue na mimi nabonga juu ya burial, because the guy had been buried and he was buried hurriedly as a Muslim with no autopsy, and then eventually kulikuwa na exhumation orders, and when the body was exhumed kulikuwa na 3 pathologists: the government pathologist, a pathologist for the brothers, and a pathologist for the sisters. The government pathologist and the pathologist for the brothers found traces of poison. Alafu the pathologist were the sisters didn't find anything, but wale wakufind kitu kuzumsa alikuwa natoka Brito, samples zilipelekwa Britain. samples kupelekwa Britain, inapatikana that the samples that were taken were not the original samples that had been, like every family got a sample, mwechukua hii chukua ma every pathologist, but hii moja ile find no trace of poison had been tampered with. So it's a very interesting story, man. I'm not even doing it any justice. It was the billion shilling cops. End up umeicheki jo Brian Obuya, man, still doing some crazy stuff like that's one of the very interesting stories ile nisha cheki, and I don't know what to say, because there are things I want to say but I can't say because nikisema najua kitu inanifanyikia. But ukiwa na pesa, number one, kuwa na will. Humse pia another thing that happened ni kuna place kuna semekana will yake inaweza kuwa hiyo place ilipatikana kama imevunjwa na will haikuwa, so was a Christian buried as a Muslim, so like he could be buried super fast. Like damn man, kutafuta do tunaitafutaga, lakini lazima tujue it comes at some consequences, man. Like ukiwa end up na do mingi hivyo, make sure jo uko na will. Alafu pia I think pia unafaa kuwa insist on autopsies. Alafu hii time tunaishi digital, unza go to digital uko nikikufa tu vile sifai kukufa, watu wajue kuwa lazima nipasulewe, nisizikwe before 3 months, every test has to be done, because I don't know, man, like what happened to that white dude, I don't know, but it's interesting that they actually buried him. Alikuwa anaitwa something, wakampatia jina Akbar so that he could be buried super fast. Damn, acha niendelee kutafuta hii shilingi. Acha nikuwe mjaja kama mtu wa mlima iko nene.